A game where a mother uses her daughters to solve her problems. Karen Simulator. Wait, wrong game. Today we're talking about the stylish tactical RPG roguelike Othercide. Developed by French and Swedish video game development studio Lightbulb Crew and published by Focus Home Interactive or Focus Entertainment, a smaller, almost independent level publisher, allowing Lightbulb Crew to create Othercide, their first and only release as of the creation of this video. With a team composed of talented minds from around what I call the AAA indie industry, I'll put it this way. If you've watched the Snaker video, you've seen this team's previous work. Quoting them, their references were Silent Hill, Berserk, and Nier Automata. It's good that they picked from such obscure titles. I mean, the only way you could pick something more obscure is if it was Star Wars or Dragon Ball Z. Jokes aside, Lightbulb Crew shows that these properties can be fusion hard to create their own identity through their artwork. With art director Alexandre Chaderot and head of the studio and creative director Anders Larson seemingly pushing for the artistic, grim, dreamlike atmosphere that Othercide specializes in, alongside people like Antoine Dupuis, who worked as a cinematic character and UI artist for 4.5 years on Othercide, a 3D character artist that doesn't seem to have any other work in the gaming industry other than this title, like most of the team that wasn't Focus Entertainment veterans. Now, on one hand, I love the art style, heavily emphasizing the black, whites, and grays and reds, like the game Mad World or famously the movie Sin City. But because of the limitations of these colors, sometimes it affects gameplay, like not fully understanding my movement options. Because of the XCOM-like movement system, you can move even further beyond the normal range, using the extra turn or more initiative in this case. But since it's grayed out more than the other lines, sometimes I can't make it out. If you asked for a simplified explanation of the gameplay, I would call it female XCOM with swords, monsters, and death, with a basic isometric view and a grid-based movement system using AP action points for movement and skills. If you keep 50 action points, you'll use only half a turn. That's very important because Othercide is all about manipulating the timeline the daughters and enemies are on, speeding up your own initiative, delaying the enemies, or just flat out killing them, all to minimize damage done to you. Health is your only resource, by the way, other than your daughters' lives, which can be sacrificed to heal other daughters, meaning there's a natural selection to your daughters. But there's a price. They have to be the same level or higher to be sacrificed to a lower level daughter, filling out your ranks by germinating more daughters. Through certain missions and remembrances, multiple playthrough buffs, we acquire resurrection tokens, capable of bringing back any of your daughters, even from other runs that have failed, allowing you to pick your favorites and use the most powerful daughters. So gameplay is all about sacrifice, sacrificing health for skills or your life for someone else's. Reaction skills cost HP, usually a percentage, while active skills, attacks, cost action points. Reaction skills cost 5 to 10% of your HP, but make a massive difference in your survival, especially late game. Or
how foolish my fears.
Just to do cool shit that does lots of damage. Othercide has 3 classes.
Forgive me for leaving your side. I thought I could bear witness to the child's soul. My heart bled for the girl who rotted, abandoned in the cellar. I lived her pain, what suffering put upon her. Her descent has transformed me, forced me to grow and birth a new daughter.
4 classes for the daughters, each with their own role to play. Each class having their own unique traits and skills acquired through leveling up in combat. at certain levels being able to unlock one of two skills, allowing for unique variations on each of your daughters. The problem is not all skills are created equal. Some are way more powerful than others, while others have utility in different scenarios. Shield bearers are tanks. They are meant to absorb attacks and delay enemies, but until late game they aren't very mobile. With the correct memory and reaction skills set up, she can increase her armor, making her almost unkillable, and protect her allies by switching places with them. But she can also protect her sisters by stunning enemies, delaying their turn. With some traits, shield bearers unlock being devastating, like decreasing enemy damage with her aura. Soulslingers are capable of taking care of long-range engagements and focus on buffing and defending their teammates. In other words, the clutch of your team, being one of the heaviest damage dealers and giving out the most important buffs, with their two most important skills being both reaction shots, intercepting round and shadow round, being able to interrupt attacks and increase damage, as anyone who uses a damage dealing skill has the potential to create a massive combo. With Spirit Haste and Spirit Burst, two skills that increase initiative, meaning moving further up on the timeline, and she can have all of these skills at the same time and technically use every turn. Blade Masters are the 25-year-old Mike Tyson of the squad. Big damage dealers, single hitting some enemies, and having incredible mobility. If used correctly, are able to throw themselves into any horrible situation and get out. At least with my playstyle. If you're very team-oriented, they need someone to protect them in case you make a mistake.
You can't stop progress. The cure will be found.
With the right build, she can one-tap every single enemy that's not a boss, taking out high-priority enemies like their buffers and huge damage dealers easily. She has a lot of great reaction skills, but I never use them. You can check the guide in the description to see if you want to try PC Invasion's builds, but I like schmoovin'. Any memory or trait that increases damage or AP are a must. Scythe Dancers are capable of empowering their own defense and damage during the course of a long battle, becoming a workhorse during long missions, for two big reasons. After using Dance of the Dead to increase your damage by 15%, for every enemy killed in your vicinity, or using Deadly Dance, also having the ability to steal armor, making the Scythe Dancer harder to kill. And just to make sure she's the most versatile of your daughters, she has a lot of AoE damage, making her incredibly powerful. With each daughter being able to sacrifice themselves to others, the classes serve another purpose. When they are sacrificed to heal someone, they also grant the most powerful traits possible, the soul of another daughter. Equipment in this game takes place as memories, upgrading skills, not just your numbers. Instead of just getting higher attack values all around, you'll get higher attack numbers on that skill, even increasing your crit chance on that skill. But that's just baseline stuff. You can also use memories as buffs to buffs, and as debuffs like reducing armor, pushing their turn back, and reducing their movement. Like, let's say, Darkest Dungeon, you'll unlock traits. Unlike Darkest Dungeon, they're mostly positive with some negative effects. Passive abilities, increasing damage against their enemies, armor resistance, and even experience gain. One of the most important increases? AP, allowing for more movement and actions per turn. Leadership might be one of the most powerful, since it gives you a 40% damage increase just by standing next to one of your soul slingers. Now I hear you, broken controller. If you're constantly running around the map, how can you utilize this for the melee characters? That's the thing, you don't. The most OP damage dealing strat is to just stack up soul slingers, use the react skill shadow shooting, and just attack, gunning down anyone that comes close. And with someone like the shield bearer with a terrifying aura, and the ability to give themselves 580 armor, 400 with the right memory, and 180 every time she activates. It can be ridiculous. A boss couldn't even hurt me at one point. While not diverse in its color scheme, Othercide is very diverse in its playstyle, customization of skills, loadouts, and team synergy. Like using Scythe Dancers and Soul Slingers together, making our Scythe Dancer a ferocious pitbull high on bath salts. Add the shadow shots with haste buffs, and you'll kill any group of enemies in no time. Just about any strat you can think of can be OP. I read through 2 separate guides that would tell me that my strats for my Blade Master were dog shit, but look at what she can do. Most of the roguelike elements come from the mission structure and map layouts being randomized. Even though there are only 5 separate mission types, you can get multiple variations depending on the day, the randomized enemies, and the difficulties. Hunt. Being as basic as a team deathmatch, there will be only so many enemies to fight with the number literally on the screen, sort of like a wave or horde mode in other games. After a certain amount of time or enemies are defeated, the next wave will come, showing their location, and it can be an issue if they spawn underneath the player. But you will be shown enough information to plan for the next wave, adding a wrinkle to establish a challenge. Survival, a lot like Hunt but with a time limit. Fighting to survive, you must withstand each wave, so you are allowed to escape at a random point, punishing those that make early or bad choices. Usually the best choice is to stay in the middle and then make a mad dash to the exit at the end. All of this will happen while you're being attacked too. Penance. One of the most interesting of the missions, since each enemy you kill has a point value. When you reach your maximum point value, one of your daughters will be returned home. But by themselves, so the others will have to continue the fight themselves. So you have to strategically take out enemies so your weakest isn't left alone. Rescue. Some of the most important and most difficult missions on the list. Rescuing lost souls. Going from one end of the map to the next, fighting enemies all along the way. Trying to get a non-combative character to the rescue point alongside all of our daughters. With enemies spawning in front and behind. I personally rush through these levels since you can escape without using AP. But the reason this is so important is that the lost souls can be sacrificed for a resurrection token, meaning you can bring one of your daughters back from the dead from any run. So if you need to refresh someone, you can make a sacrifice and bring them back, or bring back somebody way more useful to save your run. Ritual. What happens when one of those lost souls are taken? They are corrupted. The ritual is a mission based off of killing the corrupted lost soul. To stop this corruption, the daughters will have to destroy the lost souls. If you fail, everyone will die. So this has an invisible time limit. Good luck. The story of Othercide is about Mother, a powerful warrior and a chosen one, meaning she has another being living inside of her. The Red Mother, a nightmare creature and a being from another world who...
This dark corner of existence is a harbinger. Soon all will follow. The very fabric of our reality is threatened. My last breath is near. My daughters, you are of me. Put an end to suffering.
Allowing for the Red Mother to take over. That's who we play as is her. Her powers are to germinate our daughters to fight against the chosen one of suffering, a child who suffers some of the worst things a human could imagine. After all this, he succumbs to his other side, the chosen one of suffering. The Red Mother must fight through the armies of nightmare creatures and reincarnations of those that inflicted the worst hardships upon him. For better or for worse, the stories are not told through cutscenes, but through the codex. Remember how I was talking about those memories? They're not just your equipment. Each one collected tells the story of Mother before all this happens. From learning how to defend herself after her family was murdered and set ablaze, finding a teacher to teach her how to fight the nightmare creatures. They're all collected through pickups. From defeating the aforementioned nightmare creatures, The only way you'll get the full story is by killing every single one and collecting Mother's memories, and through reading the in-depth details on all the enemies, bosses, and their backstories with the child. 5 chapters or eras, each representing a specific stage of the child's life. Each era has a timeline of 7 days. You'll be fighting your way through the plague, the cellar prison, the broken beauty, the despair creation, and the long nightmare, battling through these eras to reach the personification of all this suffering, with the surgeon, the deacon, the maid, the child, and suffering itself. Each era has its own enemy types and level of difficulty. You'll get 1, 2, 3 missions per day. You don't have to complete every mission, just one, but early on you want to complete as many as possible because of the white and red shards you'll be collecting. They're your currency. Red shards are the most important for every single run since they're how you birth daughters and equip memories, while the white shards are for permanent buffs across playthroughs, remembrances. When you use the Recollection, you restart your run being able to purchase these remembrances, which you can do before and during the next run. After Recollection, you lose everything, and I mean everything, starting off your next campaign with only 3 new daughters, and having to build your way up from there, unless you use your remembrances. They're capable of skipping eras, increasing your damage, health, starting levels, and more importantly, starting you with resurrection tokens, so you're not starting from square one every time. And you'll need as many daughters as you can get because they can only do 1 mission per day. Like I said, you only have to do 1 and you can skip the rest, only doing the most important missions and the easiest, unless you need experience or red shards. What doesn't help is that some days give you massive buffs or debuffs. Good thing is, the extra missions that pile up disappear after defeating the era. But that's where the real problems lie. The bosses. All incredibly difficult, with their own mechanics, strengths, and weaknesses. Except for the maid. She'll just fuck you up. But the cool thing is that you'll be able to skip eras after beating them, or just fighting the boss if you've met them previously. Just kit up and try your luck. I usually do a Recollection after every boss fight, because you would unlock the best remembrances right after completing an era. So get a set of 4 girls ready for the big battle and go all out. Sometimes when playing a game that's this tough, you need to abuse all the mechanics given to succeed. One of the coolest things is that each era has its own monsters that you'll encounter, that will get added to the previous eras if you decide to start all the way back at the beginning. And by the time the corrupted daughters are running at you, you might want to start from the beginning to unlock decent traits for your new daughters before the even harder fights start treating you like a small hole in a brothel. I mean, the final boss had me using all my dirty ass tricks, and I had 4 max level characters fully kitted out with great memories and powerful traits, and I barely scraped by. Othercide is difficult in the best way possible, not hard just to be hard. You only get punished for your mistakes, unless it's a boss fight. The style, art, gameplay, equipment, and even soundtrack are designed around telling a story of loss, death, and suffering, and how you can overcome it. If you love games like XCOM, Final Fantasy Tactics, or Fire Emblem, this will be right up your alley.